Keith, hold on 1 second. Hi, Dee. Hold on 1 second.
Call the meeting to order. It's 6:30. Since I will be remotely running our city council meeting, I ask that we try to follow a protocol for our discussions. As we go through the agenda items, I will call upon each of you to speak if you would like to make any comments. Please allow me to call on you before you speak. After you speak, everyone should pause so I know that I can move on to the next council member to speak. After each of you have spoken, and if you would like to speak again, please ask for the floor. With a little cooperation and patience, we can have the meeting flow very well. So thank you very much. Try to do that. And remember, for me it works, maybe it doesn't for you, that mute button on your phone might help you. Certainly no requirement there. Okay, Mr. City Attorney, any closed session reports?
Nothing to report. You just tell me I said nothing to report.
Nothing to report.
Okay. If I could ask Mayor Pro Tem Mike Judge to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, let's follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Litster.
Here in chambers.
Councilmember Luevanos.
Here via telephone conference.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Here telephonically.
Mayor Pro Tem Judge.
Present in chambers.
Mayor Mashburn.
Here by telephone.
Thank you.
Okay, as you all are aware, the coronavirus has required all of us, including government, to do things differently. We have been ordered by the Ventura County Public Health official to shelter in our residences, and for persons over 65 or for those that are vulnerable medically, they are to remain sheltered as much as possible. I fall into that category, and therefore I am participating in this meeting via conference call along with City Council members Kavanaugh and Luevanos. It may not be noticeable, but there is no public in the City Council chamber because all city facilities are closed to the public. Before we move forward with the agenda, I want to let the listening public know how to participate in this council meeting. As noted on the agenda, the public was encouraged to submit emails concerning tonight's agenda. For emails submitted prior to 12 noon today, those emails have been provided to us. Emails sent between 12 noon today and the beginning of item 5 on the agenda, which is public statements, will be read by the city clerk this evening. Emails should be limited to 250 words. Once public statements is reached on the agenda, no new emails will be received and read. So right now, you can still send emails that may be read during the meeting. Those emails received after the beginning of public statements will be entered into the record. At the beginning of public statements, the city clerk will begin to read the emails received since noon today, spending 2 minutes on each email. The city clerk will spend 30 minutes total reading emails. For those emails that are not read, they will be entered into the record. The city thanks you for your patience. During this local emergency, the city is making every attempt to continue to allow the public to participate in the business of the city. With that said, we can move on with the meeting. City Clerk, you may continue after I say thank you to our council members for making this happen tonight. It's not the easiest thing for everybody to do, and certainly appreciate it. City Clerk.
The first item on the agenda is 1A.
I move that all resolutions and ordinances presented tonight be read in title only and all further reading be waived.
Second.
Mayor, if I may?
Yeah.
A point of order.
I
I had a question for the agenda review.
Okay, yeah, let's back up to the agenda review. I'm sorry that we got ahead of ourselves there. Anyway, and let me make this statement before you take it, Councilmember Luevanos. Because we will have myself and council members Kavanaugh and Luevanos participating by phone, we will be conducting all votes by a roll call vote. Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Luevanos.
Thank you, Mayor Mashburn. For the agenda review, I'm curious, I would like to know why consent item number 5, which is about appointments to the CEAC committee, is not on the agenda under agenda item number 3, which is reserved for appointments, so that the public would have an opportunity to comment under agenda item 2, which is designated as the place for public statements on appointments.
Okay, I think that's a question. I'm sorry?
If we could move that item, or if someone can answer that question for me.
Yeah, we'll ask the city manager to answer that.
Yes, I could take that. We moved it to consent because we were trying to move everything off of having 2 separate public statements to allow for just one where it would combine the all the items into the consent calendar. So if there were any public statements regarding that particular appointment, it would happen during the regular public statements. So that's the only reason why we moved it, so we wouldn't have 2 different public statements, trying to make it a little bit easier for the listening and corresponding public.
Well, I'm concerned because we have not had consistency in the more than a year that I've been city councilwoman. We have not had consistency on where public statements have been allowed and not been allowed, and so I was hoping that we would follow, at least that consistency of having appointments, on agenda item number 3, so that the public would know that they could make comments at agenda item number 2. And I recognize the times are extraordinary right now, but our residents also rely on having some semblance of consistency in the order in which we handle our city business. So I would ask that we move consent item number 5 until the next meeting so that it's properly placed on the agenda where it should be placed. So I guess I'm making a motion to postpone consent item number 5 to the next city council meeting so that it's placed properly on the agenda so that people have the opportunity to comment.
I'd just like to say, well, I think the people had opportunity to comment on anything on the agenda.
But appointments are usually on agenda item number 3, and there's an expectation by the public that they're allowed to make statements on public on appointments on a consent item, agenda item number 2. And having put it in the consent calendar removes the expectation of, democratic participation for our residents. Is there an urgency by which we need to have that happen right now at this meeting, that we can't postpone it till our next city council meeting?
Comments, Councilmember Judge.
I have no comment.
Councilmember Kavanaugh, do you have any comments?
No comments.
Councilmember Litster.
No comments, although I know that this appointment, as I spoke with our city clerk earlier today, I recognize that this appointment allows for a one-time meeting to basically review the candidates for the election committee. So I guess...
Let me interrupt you. I can't hardly hear you, Councilmember Litster.
I'll try to speak louder, and I think he's pointing the phone. I spoke with our city clerk earlier, Lucy, about this specific appointment because I was curious. I just had some questions about it. It is my understanding that this appointment is a one-time commission that reviews the actual committee applicants, and so I wonder if maybe there is a time, if timeliness is of a factor, because that committee needs to be constituted, and this commission is a one-time review of that committee. But I leave it to Ms. Blanca and our city manager to indicate whether this is a timely issue or not.
Okay, I heard a motion by Councilmember Luevanos to
Yes, I move
delay
to table
this.
consent item number 5, and it be placed on the following city council meeting agenda under agenda item number 3 so that the public has the opportunity to comment under agenda item number 2.
Okay, do I hear a second for that? Okay, with no second, we will move on.
Mr. Mayor, I have one other item for agenda review. We have the June 17th minutes on page 4. Item 3.1 indicates that Councilmember Litster made a motion. However, the motion was actually made by Councilmember Luevanos. So we're making one change to the June 17th minutes to reflect Councilmember Luevanos making a motion as opposed to Councilmember Litster, who was absent for that meeting.
Okay.
That's all for agenda review.
Okay, and then we did 1A, correct? Did we vote on that?
We need a vote for 1A.
Yeah. We haven't voted yet on 1A.
Okay.
So I move that all
Okay.
resolutions and ordinances presented tonight be read in title only and all further reading be waived.
Second.
Okay, call for the vote. This is a voice vote. Judge?
Yes.
Councilmember Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Councilmember Luevanos?
Yes.
Councilmember Litster?
Yes.
And Mashburn, yes. Okay. Next item is 1C, declaration of conflict. If any member of the City Council may have a conflict of interest or any reason why that member must abstain from consideration of any matter on this agenda, he or she should so declare at this time. Is there anybody that needs to declare? Judge?
No.
Councilmember Kavanaugh?
No.
Councilmember Luevanos?
No.
Councilmember Litster?
No.
And Mashburn, no. And I apologize, Council Member Judge, because I called you by your last name a couple of times there. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
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 1D,
Mr. Mayor,
City Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the first item on the agenda is 1D1, a proclamation declaring the month of April 2020 as DMV Donate Life California Month. And Samantha Argabright is here to read the proclamation.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. Whereas organ tissue, marrow, and blood donations are life-giving acts recognized worldwide as expressions of compassion to those in need, and whereas more than 112,000 individuals nationwide and more than 21,000 in California are currently on the National Organ Transplant waiting list, and on average, 17 people die each day while waiting due to the shortage of donated organs. And whereas a single individual's donation of the heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, pancreas, and small intestine can save up to 8 lives, donation of tissue can save and heal the lives of more than 75 others, and a single blood donation can help 3 people in need. And whereas over 16 million Californians have signed up with the state-authorized Donate Life California donor registry to ensure their wishes to be organ, eye, and tissue donors are honored. And whereas California residents can sign up with the Donate Life California donor registry when applying for or renewing their driver's licenses or ID cards at the California Department of Motor Vehicles. Now therefore, the month of April 2020 is hereby proclaimed DMV Donate Life California Month in the city of Simi Valley to encourage its citizens to check yes when applying for or renewing their driver's license or ID card, or by signing up at www.donatelifecalifornia.org or www.donevitacalifornia.org, presented this 6th day of April 2020.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next we have Agenda Item 1D2, a proclamation declaring the week of April 12 through April 18, 2020 as Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. And Samantha Argabright is also here to read that proclamation.
Good evening again. Whereas National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week acknowledges and honors the men and women in this vital career whose knowledge and professionalism to make critical decisions, obtain necessary information, and quickly dispatch needed aid is so greatly relied upon. And whereas in an emergency, Americans depend on 911, and each and every day, dispatchers answer desperate calls for help, responding with services that save the lives and property of citizens in need of assistance. And whereas these public safety dispatchers are more than anonymous voices on the telephone and radio, they are professionals who play a crucial role ensuring that public safety resources are deployed in an effective and timely manner to protect our citizens and community. And whereas Simi Valley Police Department dispatchers serve our citizens daily, and the work of those dedicated individuals in emergency situations is invaluable, and each of these men and women deserve heartfelt appreciation and honor. Now therefore, April 12th through April 18th, 2020 is hereby proclaimed Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in the city of Simi Valley to show appreciation and to recognize that the public's health, safety, and well-being often depend upon the commitment and steadfast devotion public safety dispatchers have in serving our community. We count on them to answer the call 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. Dispatchers are some of the most important people you will never see. They are the unsung heroes of public safety. Presented this 6th day of April 2020.
Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, there are no items on the agenda for appointments, special presentations, and informational reports, and therefore there are no public statements for this item. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next item on the agenda is item 4A, a continued public hearing to consider a request from AMG and Associates LLC for a planned development permit PDS 1045, tentative parcel map TPS 685, and affordable housing agreement AHAR 061 with density bonus, development concessions, and waivers to construct a 278-unit, 4-story apartment complex and 8,100 square foot commercial building remodel, and consolidation of 6 parcels to create 2 lots located at 2804 Tapple Street, 4415 Alamo Street, and 4473 Alamo Street, certification of the final environmental impact report for the subject applications, and adoption of resolutions. This item is continued to a date uncertain.
Okay, is that correct, Mr. City Manager? It is continued to a date uncertain,
That's correct.
and the developer is aware of that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next item on the agenda is item 5. This is the time for public statements on all items other than public hearings, appointments, and information reports. All comments submitted by email prior to 12 p.m. today have been provided to the City Council. Comments received by email beginning 12 p.m. noon today up until the beginning of this public statements item of the agenda will now be read for a period of 30 minutes. Every effort will be made to read emails into the record, but some emails may not be read due to time limitations. Emails received after the beginning of public statements or unread emails will be made part of the record if received prior to the end of the meeting. City Council members may offer a response to the extent possible under Agenda Item 5A. Mr. Mayor, unless you have comments, any comments, we will begin reading the email comments.
Yeah, my only comment is remember that when we have the responses that we are under the Brown Act and have to keep those responses very brief. That's my only comment. So at this time, are we ready to hear the
We are, Mayor. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, the first comment we received is from Matt Doros. Can you hear me, sir, council members, via telephone?
Council members on the phone, can you hear?
It sounds very echoey. It's not, yeah, I'm hearing a lot of echo.
It's difficult to understand.
It's frightening to observe how the landscape has quickly changed in the past 8 weeks.
Does that sound better?
No, I'm still having a difficult time.
It's actually easier to hear you on the city website. It's very clear on the city website to hear the meeting.
Okay, let me.
So if you gave us like a 1-minute delay, then we would be able to catch up to the city meeting if you read the comments that way. May I suggest that as a solution?
I'm not on the city website.
Do you have them all printed? Mm-hmm. Why don't you come up here and speak into the microphone?
Okay.
There you go.
I shall begin again, Mayor and City Council members.
That's much better. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, our first public statement submitted is by Matt Doros. It's frightening to observe how the landscape has quickly changed in the past 8 weeks. That said, there is a huge contrast between the issues we faced back in January, which pale by comparison to today's events. I know that there are many efforts going on behind the scenes, at the City Hall in order to protect the city. I send my deepest appreciation to the city staff, City Council, Police Department, Planning Commissioners, and all the people at the city government who have our best interests as a top priority. Please, all of you, collectively stay safe, and I send my wishes and prayers to all of you and your loved ones that you remain healthy and that we may return to normal as soon as it is safe and practical. Again, I send you all at City Hall my gratitude and best wishes. That was Matthew Dorrells. The second statement submitted is by Maggie Kesley. Keith Mashburn's post regarding Rob McCoy. I want to thank Keith for his post regarding the circumstances surrounding Rob McCoy's decision to resign from his city council seat. I appreciate that he did not take a position on it. Instead, it caused me to go research it for myself so that I could come to my own conclusion based upon facts, not an opinion of others or even his. I watched the video and was able to form my own opinion of Rob's actions. There could easily be good arguments on both sides, and I'm no expert to make them. What I will say is that what Rob demonstrated to me is that we can open back up for business, go on with our lives, and still respect the need for social distancing. It showed me that people will respect and abide by it. Watching the video reminded me that we are all intelligent human beings that have the ability to do what is in the best interest of others while still maintaining life. For that, I thank Rob McCoy and I thank Keith Mashburn for sharing the story. And that was Maggie Kessler. The third statement received is from Jim Anglin. With many people being required to stay home from work during the ongoing virus crisis, it would seem prudent that gardeners throughout Simi Valley should be banned from using leaf blowers in residential neighborhoods. The ban should also include shopping centers and places where pedestrians are present. The trash clouds produced by leaf blowers can spread 100 feet or even more when it is windy. Also, please issue annual permits to those gardening businesses the way Moore Park, Thousand Oaks, and other Ventura County cities do. As it stands now, these folks are operating with impunity. Thank you. P.S. Please keep me in the loop. That was Jim Anglin. And the final statement received is from Marie Garside. Wash your hands and face. Most of us grew up with parents telling us to wash your hands and face throughout the day. 2020 brings new meaning to that refrain, since washing one's hands and face is one of the most practical ways to prevent infection of a deadly virus. I have contacted the mayor and city council members regarding employing hand washing stations in a few areas around Simi Valley. What we do have is 2 hand washing stations within a few blocks of each other, but leaving most of the city without. Our homeless population is in dire need of hand washing stations in order to comply with the first rule of hygiene against COVID-19. The city can take this important action to protect our homeless residents. And that was from Marie Garside. That is a final statement. Thank you.
Are the rest of the public comments that were emailed to us as city council members going to be read into the record?
They will be included in the record.
But they will not be read into the record?
That's correct.
Okay, that was a little confusing. It seemed like they were going to be read into the record.
I think there was a time limit that was used.
Yes, I understand the time limit, but there were comments that were submitted before noon today that were emailed to us by 1 o'clock this afternoon, and it seemed in the email that we received that they were going to be read into the record at the city council meeting tonight, this evening. Am I incorrect in that assumption?
That's not what I understood, but I understood we'll be able to comment on them during our comment section.
Well, since they were only emailed to us, the rest of the public that's listening and watching this city council meeting wouldn't know what those comments are unless they're read into the record. or they're posted somewhere
That's-
publicly.
Okay, let me ask this question, and then let's try going to the protocol of asking for the floor. But the question I have for the city manager, did the statements that were read to us, did they meet that time frame that was given? I think a total of 30 minutes?
The statements that were just read were received between noon and the beginning of public statements. And they, as indicated on the agenda, they would be read into the record. As indicated on the agenda as well, on number 2, under item 5, we indicate that the emails received between up until noon today would be provided to the city council and made part of the record. So it was not the intent to read those into the record.
Well, I'm looking at my email right now, and it says all emails received will be read.
All emails received after noon would be read.
Okay, that was not clear to me, and I'm an elected official and a government teacher. So if it wasn't clear to me that my comments were only going to be read into the public record if I commented afternoon, but before, agenda item 5, then that's very confusing. I think we should, at least give some semblance to, the comments that were read, or a summary of some of the comments, even if you just read a couple sentences from the comments that were emailed, because I think people have the expectation that if they emailed their comments by noon today, that they would be read into the record. It seems very confusing that and disproportionate that only people that submitted comments between noon today and agenda item number 5 would be able to have their comments read into the record. I think if people had known that, they would have waited until afternoon to submit their comments so that they would be read into the record. That was not clear at all.
Well, the email that I had sent to you was sent to the council members and not to the public. The public has the agenda item, that the agenda itself that they could read, where it does indicate that the statements provided before noon would be made part of the record, and those provided after noon would be read into the record.
Okay, so is there any reason why we can't read some of the comments that were sent to us by the clerk into the record?
We don't have those in front of us.
Well, I mean, we have the email that was sent to us from the clerk. An acknowledgement.
I'm sorry, but I don't agree. I think it was very clear on the agenda as to what was going to be done, and we received it, the ones before noon, so that we could read them and have knowledge of them before tonight's meeting. So if you want to make a comment on, you should be able to do that during your rebuttal. And I'm also an elected official and understand and how to read an agenda too. So I think it's just a matter of interpretation, and that's my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Let's move forward unless there's some kind of motion.
Mr. Mayor, we did, the clerk has noted there's one more email that was received before the start of public statements. We'd like to read that last one in, please.
Yes, please.
Okay, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, this last statement was received by Rebecca Albaran. Good evening. Thank you for hosting the City Council meeting via YouTube. I enjoy it, and I'm even on time. I hope everyone is staying safe. I appreciate seeing the various emails coming to my inbox in regards to COVID-19, as well as seeing the updates from the various members of the council on Facebook. I want to thank you all for voting on the moratorium on evictions due to COVID-19. I am also thankful for not disconnecting water services to residents due to non-payment. These actions are impactful to our residents. We are currently sheltering in their homes and attempting to stay as safe as possible during this pandemic. Thank you, Rebecca Albaran. And that is it.
Okay. Thank you. At this time, City Clerk, is it 5A?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll start with 5A, and I'm just going to go down the list I have in order, and that would be comments regarding public statements, and we'll start with Council Member Judge.
I have no comments, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry, you said no comments?
Yes, no comments, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Council Member Kavanaugh.
Just some general comments that I really appreciated people writing in, even though they couldn't show up at a meeting, and expressing their opinions on various subjects. And it was also very nice to hear people acknowledging the good things that are happening in the city, and that the city is doing a lot behind the scenes. Sometimes our employees are not necessarily recognized or known that they're working, but I wanted to really thank all of the city employees, all the time that they're putting in, the ones behind the scenes, and all the other essential workers that we have within our city that are making it safe and well for us to still live here and to work from home and stay at home and not spread any coronavirus. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Luevanos.
Yes, I have a comment that I'm going to bring up at 9B, which is regarding an email that we got for public comment from Robbie Hidalgo, but I'll bring it up at 9B. My other comments have to do with the 3 emails that we received with regard to the comments that were made by Mayor Mashburn with regard to Pastor Rob McCoy having services and resigning from his post as council member. We all have to set an example as elected officials to ensure that we are complying with the Ventura County Public Health Order to stay at home. It is the only way we're going to flatten the curve, and it is the only way that we can protect all those who are vulnerable in our community and our first responders, including our police department, including our healthcare workers, including our cashiers and clerks, and everyone who has to work. And I would ask that we be proactive and we set the example as elected officials to make sure that we are complying with all of the orders that Ventura County Public Health has asked for us to comply with. I know that Easter is coming up, but we all have an obligation to protect our most vulnerable. And if we really, really want to show how much we love the most vulnerable in our community and our first responders, then we will comply fully with the orders from the Ventura County Public Health to stay at home and celebrate Easter online, via Zoom, or via a number of ways through TV that will be available. Those are my comments.
Okay. Councilmember Litster.
Thank you. Just some comments about the letters we received and what was heard this evening. First of all, for those at home, there were 12 comments we received in our boxes. The vast majority of them were with concern about the Tapo Alamo project. You will note that that hearing has been postponed until we can have a public hearing where everyone can attend. And so I want to thank our city manager for recognizing the importance of hearings being made public where everyone can participate. And so for those concerned comments we received, I hope that they will also be included when we revisit that issue. Yes, there were comments concerning about the mayor's post about Rob McCoy. I actually concur with Maggie Kessley. I had not heard anything about it. I appreciated the notification, and I found the post to be one that allowed me to actually research what transpired. And so I do think that it is important that we be informed of what is happening in our community. And I concur with Maggie Kessley's analysis that allowed us simply to find information. I wanted to comment about Marie Garside's comment that was read into the record. Thank you for your concern about washing hands. I wanted to let her know that today I had a conversation with the Park District, and just a reminder that all of the restroom facilities in our parks are open and available, so our homeless population are able to sanitize and wash hands, etc., in addition to the hand stations that are here at City Hall. And so I wanted her to know that there is that availability as well, and we work together as multiple districts. And then just to conclude, I want to thank Matt Doris. I may be saying your name wrong, but thank you for your appreciation. As your comments were read into the record, I will be honest, as a council member, I was touched and do recognize that we have many, many people who are working behind the scenes trying to keep us all safe. And those are our comments. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Mashburn, he's up. My comment is, I have never wavered from my desire of full and even a little more enforcement of the stay-at-home order and the keep your distance order. I've never wavered from that. I did point out that there was an occurrence in Thousand Oaks where a city council member determined to resign. I did say that whatever led to that resignation, it saddens me because it's my belief that the gentleman Rob McCoy is a good council member. I did not take a side, and this is evidenced by the number of people that have called me and given me locations and names of businesses that are not adhering to, and anybody can check the record and see what I did with those names and those businesses. And lastly, the people that asked me to resign, no, I won't be resigning because I did nothing wrong. That's my statement. Okay, next up,
Mr. Mayor?
City Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next item on the agenda is item 6, the consent calendar, and there are 2 resolutions for consideration. Consent item 6, resolution number 2020-20, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley amending fiscal year 2020-21 budget to incorporate a list of projects funded by Senate Bill 1, SB 1, for fiscal year 2020-21, Cycle 4, the Road Repair and Accountability Act. And consent item 7, resolution number 2020-21, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley authorizing the city manager to execute and submit applications and related agreements for and receipt of local government planning support grant program funds for local action planning, LEAP. Staff is available for questions.
Okay, is there anybody that wants to pull any consent calendar items?
Yes, Mayor.
Councilmember Judge. Councilmember Judge.
No, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
No, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Luevanos.
Yes, I would like to pull consent items 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Litster.
With the change that was made in number 1, no, I do not need anything pulled.
I think you said you want to pull number 1?
No, I said that with the acknowledged change, there's no need to pull anything for me.
Oh, okay, I think we're good. Okay. All right, let's go with number 3. Questions on number 3, Councilmember Luevanos.
Yes. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I mute myself. Yes, I saw the staff report, and I was happy to see that, some of the mobile home owners had agreed to negotiate with the renter, with the tenants of the mobile homes. I just wanted to assure our tenants, all of our tenants, including those in mobile homes, that there is information on the website. There is, according to the emergency declaration by the city, a moratorium on unlawful detainers, and that includes mobile tenants. And I wanted to thank Lonnie Aldridge, our city attorney, for putting together that frequently asked questions so that if any of our mobile home park tenants have questions about their rights to, not be evicted during this moratorium on unlawful detainers during this COVID-19 crisis, to please check the city website. So I just wanted to let our mobile home tenants know that they are protected.
Okay, so you don't have a problem with consent 3. You just wanted to make that statement.
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right, number 4.
Yes, I had a question on, I know that we need to move forward with city business, but I just wanted to ask City Manager Brian Gabler where this money is coming from. Do we need to start reconsidering expenditures based on likely adverse economic outcome from the stay-at-home orders? As we all know, closing of businesses will greatly impact city's tax revenue, and we need to think about the bigger picture. So I'm asking if there has been any economic analysis of the inevitable financial impact of the stay-at-home orders. We know that tax revenues will decrease, and we have to be careful about what we spend our limited funds on and what other emergency funding needs might arise to this COVID-19 crisis. So that was my question for our city manager, Brian Gabler.
Yes.
Mr. Gabler.
Thank you. The money that is being, as part of this contract is CDBG money. So it has already been allocated from the federal government to the city, and that is what the money has been appropriated for in our budget. We have done analyses based upon some of the changes that the state has made over the last couple of weeks, as well as the governor's executive orders. We're now analyzing that on a daily basis, and we're putting together contingency plans, but we are not planning on, we do not need to change this, nor we're making any changes going forward for the rest of this fiscal year at this time.
Okay, so the funding that we have is, if we approve this, and it's not that I don't want to spend money on our city's infrastructure, because I think it's really important, but I also want to make sure that we're taking a look at the bigger picture. So that's why I wanted to see what the analysis was.
Yes, we are very in tune with the bigger picture.
Okay, so we have considered the adverse economic impact?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a report on that? Is there any way you could email that to us as city council members? I would greatly appreciate that.
It's changing on a daily basis. We're still doing all of our analyses on what this means to the current year budget as well as next year's budget.
Okay. Well, if you could, just apprise us of those changes as they come, and I know that they are shifting on a daily basis, but just so that when we're making financial decisions on behalf of the city and on behalf of the residents, we need to make sure that we're looking at the bigger picture and keeping our limited funds in mind in terms of what we're spending money on and what other emergency funding needs might arise.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Is there anybody else that would like to comment on item 4? If so, just light up your voice. Okay. Hearing none. Councilmember Luevanos, number 5.
Okay. I see that these CEAC terms are 4 years long. Is that correct?
For the committee, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, my concern is that, we haven't, we approved voting districts in December of 2018. And I would like to know why we don't wait until the new neighborhood councils are established that align with the voting districts. Because it's been over a year and a half now, and we haven't aligned the neighborhood councils with our voting districts. So I'd like to know, we're going to have people in place that have been appointed by neighborhood councils that don't align. And as far as I know, there's a geographic area that is not really represented, will be represented through the new voting district that we will vote on in November. So I'd like to know why we can't wait until the new neighborhood councils are established.
This particular committee, the selection board that you are appointing on this consent calendar item, serves for one meeting in order to review the applications received for the SEAC committee. So these 4 members, along with representatives from the neighborhood councils, will meet once and then make a recommendation to the city council, and then they are disbanded. That will happen within the next 2 months. The committee is required to meet 60 days?
4 weeks prior to the call of the election.
4 weeks prior to the call of the election. So it is a one-time committee that will meet once and then go away. This is following our municipal code, which requires this committee to be in place and requires the selection board to select the committee. So there really aren't any implications from the neighborhood council on this particular selection board that you are selecting today, because they will be disbanded before June, and it doesn't have any implications on the neighborhood councils.
Well, but my understanding from the staff report is that the neighborhood councils, if you look at the staff report, it says that the chairperson from each neighborhood council are the people that are involved in making on that selection board. So if the neighborhood councils don't align with their voting districts, there are definite direct implications of not having neighborhood councils that align with their voting districts, because we have a lack of representation.
Well, as I said,
I've been asking since December of 2018, when we, the city council, passed a resolution to have voting districts for our neighborhood councils to be aligned, and it seems that we've been postponing that decision. And now we are very close to having our elections in November, and we still don't have neighborhood councils that align to our voting districts. And so we have people, residents in our city, that are not being represented through the neighborhood councils. And that is my concern, because that implicates every other committee. That implicates, the Council on Aging. That implicates, this committee, the EAC committee. So there's a lot of committees in the city that derive their membership from our neighborhood councils. And if our neighborhood councils are not aligned with our voting districts, then we don't have representation for all the residents in the city. That is my concern. That is why I asked to table this motion.
This is Councilmember Elaine Litster speaking, and just in response to your comments, Councilmember Luevanos, basically we're talking about one committee to oversee another committee, or the selection of committee, and then that committee just makes sure that the legal process is done, that is operating legally and meeting all the rules. As we currently have those neighborhood councils, everyone in the city is represented. We have 4 neighborhood councils, and someone from each would represent the entire city of Simi Valley. Yes, we will. In time, we will discuss whether they should or should not be aligned, and there's reasons to do it and reasons not to. But I don't see any bearing on this particular decision. Certainly, there's full representation with all 4 neighborhood councils, which right now represent the entire city, and I think we're fine to move forward personally.
Well, I would question
Excuse me. We're going to follow the protocol. I would like to make a comment on that. Since I've been on the council and since I've been mayor, I thought it was highly appropriate that the CAC committee is kind of autonomous. They're by themselves. They're not hooked to any particular region, any particular council member, because they're looking over some very important documents to help us get through the campaign process legally. And I don't see how there would be any benefit whatsoever to being tied to a neighborhood council that is tied to a particular council member, and how that would aid in the autonomy of this group and the necessary autonomy of this group to fairly take a look at all, not only the council members and the mayor, but also all of the candidates for a seat. So it's a group that I've always been very, very supportive of, because they don't truly answer to any particular council member. They come and they show you what errors that they think you made, And they may question things that you may have done inappropriately, which in the long run is really nothing but good service and a very good committee. And to my knowledge, it's always been a very successful committee. So I see no reason to wait. I see no reason to tie it to any district. And I also question, and I truly mean that as a question, that when you say, when Councilmember Luevanos says there's folks that are not represented by a neighborhood council, is that correct? That we have areas of the city that they don't fall into a neighborhood council district? I'm asking that of the city manager.
No, everyone that lives in the city of Simi Valley is represented currently on a neighborhood council.
Well, our neighborhood councils do not reflect the demographic makeup of our city. And that's what the voting districts were meant to rectify. And that's why our neighborhood councils need to align with the California Voting Rights Act and align with the voting districts. That was the purpose of realigning to the voting districts. That was the purpose of us passing the resolution in December of 2018.
Okay. Again,
to have
I'll ask
more
you to
equitable representation that aligns with the California Voting Rights Act.
Follow the protocol, please. Please. That's not that hard to do. Just say, may I have the floor? And I'd be happy to give you the floor. I don't understand that the California Voting Act and the going to districts had anything to do with the SEAC committee. So, and I also don't understand how it could be said, you just said it, that there's people that are not represented in this city by the neighborhood councils. Now, you may be correct in that they're not represented by the way the districts will represent in the future. But to say that there are people here that are not represented is, I don't think that's appropriate.
Well, Mayor, may I respond?
Yes.
Okay, so the purpose of the resolution that we passed in December of 2018 was to more closely align the voting districts to match the demographics of our changing, diverse city. So if that was the purpose and the intention of the California Voting Rights Act, which we are beholden to as a municipality in the state of California, then it would follow that aligning our neighborhood councils with the voting districts would ensure that everyone is equally represented in the city and that it is representing the demographics of our city. I also disagree that SEAC only meets once a year and that's it and they're done, because my understanding is SEAC comes together every 6 months, every time a current or future city council member or mayor files their campaign paperwork, the SEAC comes together and reviews that. So it's not just a one-time thing. And so to have the SEAC members appointed by the current neighborhood councils, which are not aligned to the voting districts, be in this position for 4 years, it's disingenuous to the process of the resolution that we passed in December of 2018 to align our voting districts to match the demographics of the city. I'm also concerned about the definition of a service organization not being posted clearly or being able to be found on the city website. I know that there was a call, and I had people calling me asking, I don't know whether or not we can apply. I think I'm a service organization. I'm not sure what is a service organization because I can't find it anywhere on the city website. I am concerned that this was not a process that was equitable and making sure that everyone who is a service organization was able to be a part of this. I also, am concerned that some of these service organizations, that are represented by these members that are being nominated, will be receiving city funds. So I would like to make a motion to forbid any of these service organizations that are listed by these individuals from receiving city funds to avoid conflicts of interest. I would also ask that they would refrain from endorsing or fundraising for any candidates, again, to avoid conflicts of interest. We do not want the CEAC to be a political machine in any way. We do want them to be politically neutral. So I would make a motion to forbid any of these service organizations from receiving city funds to avoid conflicts of interest, and that they should also refrain from endorsing or fundraising for any political candidate to avoid any conflicts of interest. And that would ensure that the CEAC is kept politically neutral.
I find that so funny. You want to be politically neutral, which is exactly what I think it should be, but you want it to be aligned with the neighborhood council districts. Okay.
Neighborhood council, I'm sorry, Mayor, may I speak?
Yes.
Neighborhood council districts are not political. They have been approved by the California Voting Rights Act, by the demographer, and by us as a city council in December of 2018. And we are a nonpartisan city council. So the fact that we approved the voting districts in December of 2018 demonstrates that they are not political, that they are constitutional, as a matter of fact, to ensure that everyone has a voice in our city. And I saw the motion before.
So then no one will campaign and no one will put up political campaign signs in those districts because they're not political. Am I correct?
No, what I am asking, my motion is to forbid any of the service organizations listed in the staff report from receiving city funds to avoid conflicts of interest, and they should also refrain, those individuals on the CEAC committee should refrain from endorsing or fundraising for any candidate to avoid conflicts of interest. Should they choose to make individual contributions, that is their prerogative. But they should not, as members of the CEAC, of the Citizens Election Advisory Commission, they should refrain from endorsing or fundraising for any candidate, and they should be forbidden from any of their service organizations that they represent from receiving city funds to avoid conflicts of interest.
This is Councilmember Litster. May I comment on that, please?
Yes. Is this
yes.
Councilmember Kavanaugh?
I'm sorry, Councilmember Litster, unless Councilmember Kavanaugh wants to speak first.
Oh, okay. Now you know who you are.
Okay. I just want to make it very clear that I think we are getting a bit off of topic of what we're trying to approve right now with this, with the current item on the consent calendar. And I would suggest that if Councilmember Luevanos wants to make that motion, it should be done in 9B, I'm sorry, just because that is a separate motion to what we're looking at right now. We're talking two separate boards or committees. Right now, we're looking to form the CEAC selection board. And if we look at our minutes, our notices, basically all neighborhood council chairpersons were notified. 2 press releases seeking applications were published and posted. Approximately 98 letters were mailed to service clubs and organizations asking for someone to participate. And with all of that, we were fortunate to receive 4 people that came forward. Not as many as we wanted, but 4 people came forward willing to voluntarily serve just in this board to basically approve the whatever the official commission is that
recommend members for this.
To recommend members for the CAC commission. Thank you. So I think that.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's fine. I just think we should that what we've got before us is different than what Councilmember Luevanos is suggesting. That should be moved to 9B. And the work has been done to find these 4 people, and we should ratify those 4 people to do the work.
Okay, so what we're saying is, what I'm hearing is Councilmember Luevanos' desire for motion should be moved to 9A or B for a future item.
I'm not seeing how her motion pertains.
Which motion? That we wait until the new neighborhood councils are aligned with the voting district, because no one has answered that question.
Well, you've got two motions the way I see it, and we haven't really gotten through number 5 to decide what we're going to do. So do you have a second on your motions? And would you clearly define your motions between the two of them?
Okay, Mayor. My first motion, Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. My first motion is to table this motion for selection board for CEAC until the new neighborhood councils are aligned with the voting districts we established in December of 2018. That is my first motion.
Okay, let's stop right there. That's a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, hearing no second. Could we hear your second motion?
Okay, the second motion is to forbid any of these service organizations from receiving city funds and for them to refrain from, the individuals to refrain from endorsing or fundraising for any candidates to avoid conflicts of interest.
Okay, a little bit of discussion there. As I recall, there was a time that there was a concern with one CAC member having something to do with a candidate and immediately stepped down. I think that goes along with our state rules of our conflict of interest laws. I'm looking for the city attorney to give an opinion here. Don't we have that in almost all of our, no, on all of our committees, we have conflict of interest.
Is this working?
Rules, regulations, whatever.
Can you hear me, Mr. Mayor?
But we also answer to the state law.
Mr. Mayor, can you hear me? This is Lonnie. Can you hear me?
There's a delay.
Well,
You'll have to come up here.
yeah. Can you start by just telling them that my opinion is that it is pretty complicated to constrain on this motion what people donate to and what they participate in. It's pretty complicated to do that now. I don't think that we have that fully fleshed out.
I'll interpret for the city attorney. I think he needs to be able to do a little bit of research on whether we can constrain any organizations from receiving funds or endorsing candidates. That would have to take a little bit of research on the legal part.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Councilmember Luevanos, would you repeat your motion and we'll look for a second?
Yes, my motion is to forbid any of these service organizations from receiving city funds and for the individuals to refrain on CEAC to refrain from endorsing or fundraising for any candidates to avoid conflicts of interest. And while I recognize that there are FPPC rules and there is a city code of ethics, it is self-enforcing and it really has no teeth to it unless people decide to abide by it voluntarily. So I would rather that we be proactive as a city council and avoid the conflicts.
Excuse me. Now you're editorializing rather than giving your motion.
So that is my motion.
All of that?
Yes, the motion I'll repeat it again. The motion is to forbid any of these service organizations from receiving city funds and the individuals to refrain from endorsing or fundraising for any candidates to avoid conflicts of interest. And if we need research from the city attorney to see whether or not that's feasible, then I would again ask to table the motion so that the city attorney can do research on this issue.
Okay, anybody want to second the motion?
The motion is to table consent item 5 so the city attorney can research it.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, that's a new motion.
Yes.
We were talking about your second motion, which was the one to forbid anybody from campaigning for, being involved in an election, or any service to receive any money. That's the motion that I'd like you to clearly state and then do a period afterward, and then we can look for a second.
Okay, I'll state the motion again. The motion is to forbid any of these service organizations from receiving city funds and the individuals on CEAC to refrain from endorsing or fundraising for any candidates to avoid conflicts of interest. Period.
Thank you. Okay. Is there a second? Hearing no second, do you want to offer your third motion on consent 5?
Yes, the third motion is to table consent item number 5 so that the city attorney has time to research this issue and to make sure that we are compliant with FPPC rules.
Okay, that's your motion.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second on that motion? Hearing none, we will move forward to Councilmember Luevanos' questions on item consent 6.
Mr. Mayor, this is Mayor Pro Tem Judge. If I may, for consent item 5,
yes.
I'd like to move staff recommendation.
Up to 1 through 5?
No, just 5.
Just number 5, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, okay.
I'll second.
All right.
This is Phoebe.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? What we're voting on? It was very hard to understand what we're voting on.
Approve staff
Okay, we're voting
recommendation for number 5, consent number 5.
So we're voting just
Okay,
on consent item number 5? Is that correct?
That's correct. We have a motion and a second. Motion by Councilmember Judge, second by Councilmember Kavanaugh. Call for the voice vote. Councilmember Judge?
Yes.
Councilmember Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Councilmember Luevanos?
No.
Councilmember Litster?
Yes.
Mashburn, yes.
Motion passes with Councilmember Luevanos voting no.
Okay, so now Councilmember Luevanos, questions you have on consent number 6. Go ahead, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. My questions for consent item 6 were answered by City Manager Brian Gabler in consent item number 4, so I'm going to pass on item number 6.
Okay, thank you. You want to move right on to 7? You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is, with the award of the contract for consulting services for the housing element update, I know that we're getting a grant from the state, from the LEAP funds, from the local early action planning grant program, and I was curious if that $68,000 plus change, is that coming from the $4.2 million that we have in redevelopment funds?
We are applying for a LEAP grant. We have not received a LEAP grant. So if we are successful in receiving a LEAP grant, then all city funds that are expended to put together the housing element will be reimbursed. For the supplemental agenda item, that would add another $63,928. That is coming from the successor agency redevelopment money fund.
Okay, so that's a yes. That the $63,928 is coming from the redevelopment funds. That will not be reimbursed by the state. Is that correct?
It will be reimbursed by the state if we are successful in receiving a LEAP grant.
Okay, so if we are successful in getting the LEAP grant, then we would get that money back into our redevelopment funds.
That's correct.
Okay, I'm asking because I just, we have we had $4.9 million, now we have $4.2 million, and I want to make sure that we're very careful with the expenditure of those funds, the redevelopment money that we have, and so that's why I'm asking if that money, because it says that it's an approval of supplemental budget request, but it will be reimbursed if we get the LEAP grant. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what is the likelihood of us getting a LEAP grant?
Well, there is $119 million available for cities and counties. We are eligible for $500,000. We will apply for the entire $500,000. It really depends on how many other cities and counties are competing against us.
Okay, and if we don't get the LEAP grant, then would that 63,000 come out of the redevelopment funds then?
Yes.
Okay, so we would lose that money forever if we don't get the LEAP grant.
Yes.
This is Councilmember.
And I also saw that there was only one person who applied, Rincon Consultants. Is there just a lack of consultants in this area, or what? I'm just curious to know why other people didn't apply for this award of a contract.
All cities right now are competing to get their housing elements done by the October 2021 deadline. Consultants are very busy right now. We are fortunate that Rincon is located in Ventura County and very accessible, have done work with the city before. We have a good working relationship with them. They felt very strong in applying to compete, and I think the problem is that other consultants are scattered thin because there are so many other entities trying to do the same work.
Okay, is there any belief that if we, put it out for, competitive bids again, that we might get other people that might put in a bid?
We don't.
Because we've done that before.
We don't think we'll find any other bidders on this.
Okay, and how long was the bid put out?
Normally goes out for 45 days.
Is that
Is
the
that
typical
a
time?
standard? That's a standard?
Actually, it's a little bit longer. We normally go out for 30, but we extended it out longer this time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I just wanted clarification on where our redevelopment money is going. And will we be apprised whether or not we do get the LEAP grant so that we know, I'm trying to keep track of our redevelopment money.
Yes, we would.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Mashburn, this
Those
is
are my
Councilmember Litster. May I say something?
Okay, I couldn't hear who was speaking.
Councilmember Litster, if I could say something, Mayor?
Yes.
I just wanted to put I wanted to put Councilmember Luevanos a little bit at wanted to alleviate her concerns in that the whole purpose of developing the housing element is to comply with arena numbers and integrate them into our general plan. That's a major function of this, of what will be done. And so given that that is the objective, if by some chance we don't get the LEAP grant, which I anticipate we should, if $63,000 is used for that purpose, I think in many ways that is some of the best use of those funds because it could directly lead to zoning and our general plan that allows for meeting those arena numbers and providing for the development that you're concerned about.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Litster.
Mayor Mashburn, may I respond?
Yes.
Thank you. My concern is the reason I asked. Yes, Mayor.
I interrupted you. Go ahead. You have the floor, Ruth.
Thank you, Mayor. Mike, the reason I brought it up is because we seem to spend a lot of money in administrative costs. And while I understand that we have experts with lots of experience that we need to compensate for their time and energy and talent, and I do want to make sure that we are compliant with arena numbers. I also want to make sure that we don't spend all of what's left of our money in administrative costs, that we're actually spending it on housing, on affordable housing and low-income housing for our working class residents, which is in desperate need right now, especially given the economic fallout from the COVID-19 crisis. So I want to make sure that we save that money for its intended purpose and not just for administrative costs. That is why I brought up the question. So thank you for bringing it up, Councilwoman Litster. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, you're welcome. We need a motion for consent items 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of those consent items.
Second?
Okay, call for the voice vote. Councilmember Judge.
Yes.
Or Mayor Pro Tem Judge.
Yes.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Councilmember Luevanos.
Yes.
Councilmember Litster.
Yes.
Mashburn, yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is item 7A, consideration of a resolution rescinding pension obligation resolution number 2019-58. The reading of the resolution is as follows. Resolution number 2020-22, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley rescinding pension obligation bond resolution number 2019-58. And City Manager Brian Gabler is here for this presentation.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, as you are aware, the city has been working over the last almost a year now, on trying to come up with strategies to control our pension costs. One of those strategies was to move forward with pension obligation bonds. The city has done a lot of work involved in the pension obligation bonds, and in August of last year, we were first contacted by the Ventura County Taxpayers Association regarding some concerns that they had with us moving forward with pension obligation bonds. Subsequent to that contact in August, we met over the course of several months with the Taxpayers Association to discuss their concerns, to develop strategies, to develop a policy, draft policy that could address some of their concerns, as well as provide for transparency and disclosing information to the public and the City Council if we were to move forward with the pension obligation bonds. On several occasions, the Ventura County Taxpayers Association made mention that they would not oppose the issuance of pension obligation bonds, but they would not support them either. At one point, in December, representatives of the Taxpayers Association indicated that they could support a 15-year pension obligation borrowing, but not a 20-year borrowing that the city was contemplating at that time. In December of last year, the City Council approved moving forward with the pension obligation bonds and approved the city staff filing for the judicial validation action, which is an action that needs to be done in order to verify that the debt is a debt of the city. The CalPERS debt is a debt of the city, and that the Superior Court would agree with that. With that filing on January 31st of this year, the Ventura County Taxpayers Association and the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association filed an answer to our judicial validation action. The City Council, the city staff, in determining moving forward, has met with the City Council to discuss the legal action that was filed. At the end of the discussions, it was determined that it would not be cost effective to challenge the legal action that was filed by the two taxpayers associations, and that we should move to an option to dismiss the two lawsuits. In the discussion with the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, they agreed that they would dismiss their action if the city were to rescind our resolution approving moving forward with the judicial validation. With that, we are recommending that the City Council adopt the attached resolution, which would rescind Resolution 2019-58, which would pull back our judicial validation, and we would no longer move forward with the pension obligation bonds. If we were to move forward with them in the next year, we would be required to notify the defendants, the two taxpayers associations, that we were moving forward with that. That concludes my comments. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and the city attorney is here as well.
Okay, excuse me. Okay, what I'll do is go down the list and ask for comments and questions. If you have any questions, and or if you just want to give your comments, and we will start out with Council Member Litster.
You're reversing the order on me. I thought I was going last.
Yeah, I know. I didn't want to be accused of somehow being unfair, so I thought, well, I'll just throw it in the other direction.
I appreciate that. Actually, at this time, I do not have any specific comments. Other than to say that given what's happened with our economy of late, I think it is wise that we are not obligated right now in this direction. That's all I have to say right at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Luevanos.
Yes, I have a question and then I have a comment. So here's my question. Thank you, Mayor. How much in potential legal fees could the city be subject to if we do not rescind this resolution?
Approximately $250,000.
Okay, is that a minimum or a maximum?
That's probably a mid-range.
Okay, so that's if we do not rescind this resolution, then we would be subject to potential legal fees of $250,000.
If we did not adopt the resolution, we would move forward through a court action on our judicial validation. If that decision, whatever that may be, is appealed up to the appellate court, and then that decision appealed up further to the California Supreme Court, we are probably looking at somewhere around $250,000 in legal costs.
Okay, if we rescind this resolution, and due to the economic situation that every municipality finds itself in uniquely right now, due to the COVID-19 crisis, is there a possibility that we could come back to this possible solution later on, or are we not allowed to do that? Are we barred from seeking this forever?
We are not barred at all. We can bring this back at any time.
Didn't I read in the, I'm sorry, excuse me, this is Mashburn. Mashburn, you have the floor. The question I want to tag on with Councilmember Luevanos is, didn't I read in the staff report there was like only a one-year term that we could not reverse this decision? If we rescinded it, we couldn't apply for at least 1 year, 1 calendar year. Am I dreaming something there?
We can, if we were to file it again within a year, we would have to notify both taxpayers associations that we have filed. After a calendar year, that requirement of notification is not there.
Oh, okay, that's the year I saw. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mayor, may I make a comment, or are you going to come back to us for comments?
Make your choice, Council Member, if you'd like to do it now, or we can come back.
I'll go ahead and make my comment now.
Okay.
You know, I just want to make it clear that we as city council members, we don't always agree on every issue, but we are always looking out for the financial interests of the city and making sure that we are keeping litigation costs down and attorney fees down. But we also are a municipality, and we also want to make sure that we exercise our rights as a municipality to make sure that we do what's best for our city financially, health-wise, and to meet the needs and expectations of our residents. So, I just want to make it clear that, the decision that is made with regard to, pension obligation bonds is not being taken lightly, and that, threats from the Ventura County Taxpayers Association, the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, are not the specific reasons why we would be rescinding the resolution, but simply because we're looking out for the financial benefits of the city and looking for long-term benefits and long-term solutions to financial obligations that we as a municipality have to make sure that we're meeting our financial obligations to our employees, but also make sure that we are being fiscally responsible. And so I just wanted to make that comment about this decision to rescind this resolution. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to comment and say thank you to our city manager, Brian Gabler, and the staff for all the time that they've put into this, as well as our city attorney's office, to get us all the information that we needed in order to make an informed decision. And I think, as Councilmember Luevanos said, we all have to agree and to think about and to look at what's best for our city. And I think we're doing that with this. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Council or Mayor Pro Tem Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My only comment is, in light of the recent events and the crisis we're facing right now, this is our only plan of action. That is all.
Okay, thank you. And with myself, I too want to thank everybody for working on this. And I even want to thank the Howard Jarvis Association and the Ventura County Taxpayers Association. Because they have a disagreement in what the direction we were heading and they wanted to challenge us, it does not mean that they are the enemy. I specifically want to thank the city manager for bringing something. We were hunting for anything, we still are, to help us with this pension obligation. And the city manager brought us something to look at, and we looked at it. The city attorney looked at it. There was a lot of time put in it. They went outside asking other opinions. We had our advisory council looking at it, our committee. And a lot of work was done, and it's not a defeat in my opinion. It's just simply at this point the right thing to do. But I want to say that I firmly believe it was well worth the effort and the time that was spent looking into it, because it's a problem that's going to remain, and we have to continue to look for ways to meet that challenge. So that's my only comments.
Mr. Mayor,
I'd like to hear a motion.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move staff's recommendation.
I'll second.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Judge, and I think the second was Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Yes, well, we both said it, but it's okay. Kavanaugh, you can have it.
She can have it. Either way is fine.
Okay. All right. Voice vote. Judge.
Yes.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Councilmember Luevanos.
Yes.
Councilmember Litster.
Yes.
Mashburn, yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, there are no items tonight for item 8, new business. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next item on the agenda is 9A, City Council member reports.
Okay, time for reports. We'll start with Mayor Pro Tem. Oh, no, we won't neither. We'll start with Councilmember Luevanos.
Ooh, random order. Thank you, Mayor. Okay.
I'm digging.
So on Wednesday, March 25th, the Clean Power Alliance had a special board meeting at 10:30 a.m. And since I have been teaching from home, I was able to attend that meeting. We talked about a number of issues that are impacting us with COVID-19. But one of the issues that we looked at is, whether the power shutdowns and the FDE power shutdowns. Luckily, and I do want to thank our city manager, Brian Gabler, for reaching out to SoCal Edison to make sure that they are only doing emergency shutdowns and not, regular maintenance, because right now our residents really, really depend on on their electricity to work from home and teach from home and all those things. So that was part of what was covered, a big chunk of what was covered by the Clean Power Alliance board meeting on Wednesday, March 25th. On Friday, March 27th, I had a teleconference with City Attorney Lonnie Eldridge. On Wednesday, April 1st, I attended via teleconference the Ventura County elected officials COVID-19 briefing. I want to thank Patrick Maynard for putting it together, and the sheriff and Dr. Levin and all the different entities that came together, all the task forces, to keep us apprised of all the things that are happening that the county is doing. I really, really appreciate that. I look forward to us having another meeting this Wednesday and posting that information. On Thursday, April 2nd, we had a regular Clean Power Alliance Board of Directors meeting, again online via teleconference, and we talked about and approved a 15-year energy storage agreement, which is really important. A lot of people, it's actually cheaper to buy electricity during the day. Usually peak demand is in the evening, but right now, since everyone is working and learning and being educated from home, there's actually kind of a flip in the usage. So we talked about having energy storage so that we can provide renewable energy. Solar generation is highest during the day when usage is lowest and prices are the lowest, and that usage is the highest in the evening with peak demand when solar generation increases, although right now we're seeing a flip of that. But as California and other states move forward with renewable energy, this is a way that Clean Power Alliance is going to make sure that we keep costs low for residents and that we also capture all that energy from solar panels and wind and hydroelectric, and that will allow us very flexible resources to respond to different grid demands, and it'll also increase grid reliability and allow everyone to capture all the benefits of renewable energy. And as more and more renewable energy providers come online, then the costs are going to come down, and that's really good news for our residents here in Simi Valley who are Clean Power Alliance customers, because that means that their prices are going to come down as well. So that is my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Kavanaugh, you're next. I just drew your number.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it. I also attended the elected conference call last Wednesday on April 1st telephonically. It was very informative. I felt that the county did a great job in explaining to all of us what they were doing, how they're doing it, when they're doing it, and it's amazing exactly how much they are doing that behind the scenes that we're not even seeing. It was very informative. I really enjoyed it, and they'll be hosting that for us every Wednesday, so I'm looking forward to that. I also had a telephonic meeting of the executive board for the EDC, Ventura County. I'm now a member of the executive board also. We met on April 1st in the afternoon, and we spoke about the different lending platforms that are going to be available to our small businesses. The EDC will have lots of money in order to help our small businesses that don't qualify for bank loans or the PPP, which is the payroll protection plan. If you go to their website now, it's E as in Edward, D as in David, collaborative.com. There's a special resources page that contains all kinds of information for small businesses. So I really advise anyone with their own business to go there and see if there's anything that they can help you with. I'm starting my 4th week of working from home. It's been challenging. I do want to thank all of those that are on the front lines. My team of 75 are working with the public here in the bank branches, and we have to keep those open. We're an essential business. So I really want to thank all of them, as well as all the other essential workers, and really encourage everyone to please be kind, to please make sure you're wearing a mask and you're doing all the hand washing and such, so that you protect my employees and all the other employees out there. And then lastly, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a thing called the bear hunt going on in Simi Valley and all over. So you have a stuffed bear, put it in your window, and the kids are going on bear hunts, walking around their neighborhood. So that's just a nice little fun thing that they have going on. So that's it for me, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And I have to say, I was on the EDC committee prior to you. In fact, I stepped down and asked you to take it. And I have to say that was one of my better moves, because you're doing a great job there, and I so much appreciate it. You're the appropriate person with the appropriate education and knowledge to be in that on that committee. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Litster.
Thank you.
I'll turn my mic on. It's amazing what has transpired since we last met with our official full council meeting. Just hard to believe. In fact, on March 9th is when we met before a regular council meeting, and on March 10th is when we welcomed our Brian Gabler as officially his first day as official city manager. And so I wanted to acknowledge that and say what a ride this has been as your official city manager. On Thursday, March the 12th, one of the last official city functions that was held was the 19th Annual Youth Summit at the Rancho Simi Recreation Park District Activity Center. What a marvelous event that was for our youth, and I wanted to commend those that put it on, and just the items, the topics that were discussed were timely and prescient, and those who participated had great ideas, and that as I sat at my table, I marveled at our youth and what great things are happening. So just a thank you there. On Friday, March 13th, I had the distinction of attending the last dramatic production that probably occurred in our Simi Valley Unified School District. And I attended the Addams Family, the musical that was held at Royal High School. They had intended to have their closing night when they returned. That's not going to happen, it would appear. But I just want to commend all those who are involved with the arts and theater. That particular production was just phenomenal, one of the best I've seen in this, and it was just very well done. And so my hat's off to all of you actors and actresses and technicians throughout the city who have had to forego your fabulous performances. But thank you for all that you do, and that was a wonderful event. The following week, Monday, March 16th, is when we actually met as a council and authorized declaring the state of emergency. And since then, as you know, things have transpired. On March 17th, I had the opportunity to meet with a Catholic gentleman who was talking about a potential project in our city, and that's exciting, many years in the future, but it's great to see potential development going forward. On March 20th, Friday, I had a Zoom meeting with the Simi Valley Ed Foundation, and later had a Zoom meeting with our Chamber of Commerce, and appreciate all of the organizations that are doing their best to meet telephonically and carry about the many activities in this community that support our different residents. The following week, on Thursday, March 26th, at a distance, I was able to recognize Clarence Skip Wetzel. This gentleman owned a business in Simi Valley for almost 50 years, A1 Lock and Safe, which is domiciled on LA Avenue, and he has sold his business, and escrow was closed, and he was retiring, and so had an opportunity to recognize him and want to say so publicly. Thank you for your almost 50 years of service to our community, and I'm sure it was a difficult decision and difficult time to be stepping away, but thank you. On March 27th, again, I had another Chamber of Commerce Zoom opportunity, and also wanted to thank what they're trying to do for businesses at a distance. They recently had, I believe it was on April 1st, a wonderful Q&A with a representative of the national or regional Chamber of Commerce, which we had all sorts of information from the Small Business Alliance and many ways to support our businesses. I, too, attended that Ventura County COVID update conference call on April 1st, and I wanted to share quickly just a few of the things I gleaned from it that our residents may find interesting. In fact, we didn't know necessarily who was on the call because so many had participated, but one of the first comments that really struck home to me was the comments of Dr. Robert Levin, who commented that in his years of a doctor, he had never, ever advocated wearing a mask for the flu and had always advised against it, but this was the first time he was going to go against his own recommendation, that he was going to come out and has since done so and say publicly that wearing a mask could be beneficial and is recommended. As he said, up to 25% of those with COVID-19 can be asymptomatic, so someone may have it and be spreading the disease and have no idea that they have that they are so infected. And so just in honor of that, I even brought my own homemade mask I want to demonstrate it. This was made for me by Kim Tucker, and so it is recommended as we go out in public that we protect each other and ourselves at best we can. But he made it very clear not to wear medical grade masks, but rather homemade masks. We do not want to take stock from our first responders and our medical professionals that desperately need the proper equipment and proper masking. A couple other things that came from there that I paid attention to. Tara Kareth from the Continuum of Care mentioned the homeless population, and I want to commend our county for being proactive. We have 4 motels set up in our community to house those homeless that are high risk or that have underlying conditions. And we, as I learned just recently, we have almost a third of the housing throughout the state are being homeless, are being housed, at least the number of beds in motels, thanks are in our Ventura County. So they're being very proactive, and I want to acknowledge that. Also, Victoria Jump of the Area Agency on Aging mentioned that there's been a 55% increase with their ramping up of feeding of the seniors and being those at home. It's increased to 6,200 people that are feeding or providing food at home, and talked about the 2 weeks of food that they're providing. The other, I wanted to mention Ashley Bautista, the County Executive Office, and she shared that, reminded us, she's the Communication Office, and I want to say this to everyone, if you want the latest statistics, please go to vcemergency.com. I confess I probably go there daily just to see the latest figures for our city and to see how we're faring, but that is vcemergency.com. She also mentioned that they stream live the Ventura County Board meeting, which is held every Tuesday morning, Channel 3 at noon. There's a press conference. Anyway, I want to be sure people feel that they are informed and knowing what's going on in our county. A few last things, and then I am done. Actually, I think I've said enough. I'm sure there are others that want to take the stage to share what they've been done. But I know that meeting telephonically is not the easiest, but we are still here trying to represent our constituents. And thank you for all those who are doing so much behind the scenes. And that's my report.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I just want to say my report's not very important. I want to say to all the people that are home dealing with this crisis like we all are, hang in there. It's going to get better. We're going to get through this. I want to say thank you to all the men and women that are in our medical staffs, in our hospitals, our doctors' offices, our urgent cares. You're doing a heck of a job, and words of appreciation really can't flow fast enough out of my mouth. To all of our first responders, obviously, you guys, you girls out there, you're doing a great job. I'm happy every day I hear that you're coming to work, you're doing what you're supposed to do, and what more can we say about you, but thank you. To all the truck drivers out there, thank you for delivering all the stuff we need. I have 3 kids that all work in supermarkets, so they're all working through this. People in my household are working every day. So I understand people's concerns about what's going on out there. I understand them very well. We want to thank all the people, especially working on our grocery stores, that are keeping those shelves stocked, making sure that everybody has a place to get their food and all the items they need to go by their daily lives while we get through this. I want to say thank you to the city staff, people that have showed up here for work every day and have done things that have to be done to keep our services flowing. Again, these are tough times, and we're going to get through this, Simi Valley. Just remember, be kind to each other. Don't leave your rubber gloves in the shopping cart. Don't throw them on the ground in the parking lot. Don't throw your, let's just be considerate. Let's have some common decency out there. Be nice to each other. We'll get through this. Don't make it harder for the people that already have to work every day to do their jobs. That's all I got to say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, looks like I'm up. First thing I'd like to do is kind of along the lines of what Mike did, which he did an excellent report. I think he used that time very wisely to thank the people that deserve a huge thank you. And I've had reason to come in contact with some nurses, and when we say first responders, we typically think of police officers and the cool police cars with red lights, and then we think of the firefighters with the cool fire trucks with red lights, and we think of the ambulances. And this is causing us to look at everybody, in a sense, as a first responder. Just like Mike said, truck drivers, people that are working in the markets, they're all on the front lines. And I see this as opportunity to bring us together, because there's no left and right when it comes to this virus. It's just simply us against it. And there's only one team, and that's a team of Americans, a team that we narrow it down to the citizens of Simi Valley. And I think we're doing a good job of all working together. I too attended the elected telephonic conference that the county put on. I'm very appreciative of the work that the county has done. Most people, or a lot of people apparently, don't understand that the county is the authority on our health services in Ventura County and Simi Valley in particular. So what I've been trying to do is steer everybody that has questions about what's Simi Valley doing, what's Simi Valley doing. Well, the truth of the matter is we're following the orders of the Ventura County Health Department, and so I'm trying to guide them to those links, those websites, so they can get the same information that I'm getting. But the bottom line is the county's doing a great job. Also, I've had reason to come into contact with Supervisor Huber's office, and they've been extremely supportive and helpful in anything I've asked for, any questions I've had, and notified of certain occurrences, and I appreciate the supervisor's help. I also want to say that because of this, I'm one of those that fall into the category, you better stay home or your wife's going to knock your head off. And I've been staying home and adhering to this order as closely as possible. I don't think I've violated it. Currently, I'm sitting in a parking lot on my phone because I get good reception here. There's no one with me. But I will say that whenever I call City Hall, Sue Klepper and Karen Smith, along with Brian, Samantha, everybody is there to help, and they're doing a wonderful job, and I appreciate the help that they're providing us. They too are now first responders. I've had some contact with Simi Hospital, and again, always get a call back from them, always trying to provide information and going that extra mile to work close with the city. I think if I had one wish, it would be that as hard as everybody's working to support each other, that we would also work hard on our attitudes. I mean, we haven't practiced for this. This is the first time, it's trial by fire, so to speak. And so there are going to be other ideas. There are going to be other ways to do it better. And that doesn't mean anybody that's doing the best they can is doing something wrong. So with that, my closing is I have called, I have requested time and time again, probably till they're sick of hearing me call and saying we have to be proactive on enforcement of the order. But we have to get our details correct. When we say, hey, this golf course is open, only to find out that it's not open, that people have been jumping the fence and going in and playing golf. We don't want to run down and drop the hammer on the operators of the golf course. Those types of things happen. So we have to get the details, get the facts before we say anything. But I am very much pro follow the rules, follow the guidelines, follow the order that the governor has come down with and that the county health official has come down with. I've never varied from that. So please stay safe, stay well, and stay at home. That's my report. Okay. 9B?
9B, future items.
Mayor, I have two 9B requests.
Okay, wait a minute. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we're there, right? Go for it.
Yes, I'd like for us to be, I appreciate you saying that the city is being proactive, and I'd like for us to move all, that any meetings that we have for the city employees, that they be teleconference meetings. All the board of directors meetings that I've attended have been via teleconference with no issues. And I'd like to make sure that we protect our city employees, especially our first responders, but also our janitors and our administrators, and wherever possible that we have teleconference meetings, and if not, then that we practice social distancing with masks. And that we be proactive in shutting down all of our non-essential businesses, which the county has clearly identified what they are, because otherwise we're going to have to go to progressive enforcement, and we would rather that everyone just comply with that. So that is my first request.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood you. Did you want it as a future agenda item?
I would just ask that we have, consensus of the city council to make sure that we protect our city employees, and wherever possible have teleconferences and not have face-to-face meetings for our city employees, because the more that we meet and congregate, the higher risk we are. So wherever it is that's possible, with whatever staff meetings that we have with city employees, that they be via teleconference.
Okay, I'd like to hear from the city manager on that request.
Yeah, we have very few people left here in City Hall, actually. And we're just about to ramp that up a little further and send all of our employees home to work remotely. Most of it, I'm not aware of any staff meetings that we're having that are not teleconference at this point in time. At least, especially this week, all of them will be. So we certainly will abide by that, absolutely.
Okay, and we do have authority from the county for progressive enforcement for non-essential businesses, which includes barbershops, which includes bars, which includes religious services. So I'd like to see us be more proactive in that regard to make sure that everyone is complying.
Our code enforcement is very busy visiting those businesses, yes.
Okay, and then my second agenda item is, and I mentioned that I was going to come back to this when we talked about public comments, is that there was a comment by Mr. Robbie Evaluable, and his comment was for DES order number 1, to request for a supplement to the Director of Emergency Services, order number 1, providing temporary commercial and residential eviction relief during the COVID-19 pandemic, which states that 90% of the communities that first saw the equally critical need to include additional essential safeguards in the orders, and I know that we have a moratorium on unlawful detainers for commercial and residential evictions. However, he suggests that we do more, that we be proactive, and in the email specifically to incorporate a single repayment period for deferred rent equaling the sum of 90 days for each month's rent deferred, beginning at expiration of emergency order in 2020, to specify that any medical or financial information provided to document impact by the epidemic shall be held in confidence, to be compliant with HIPAA, to prohibit no-fault eviction if any member of the household is sick, in isolation, under quarantine, or complying with emergency public health directive. Clarify that in writing includes email or text communication, and that prohibit charge or collection of late fees or interest on delayed rent, prohibit removal of any residential rental unit from the housing market under the Ellis Act, California Code Chapter 12.75, and prohibit eviction due to the presence of additional occupants or pets related to COVID-19. And this would protect extended family or guests who are sheltering together. Our neighboring cities have taken this approach, and they've even provided 12 months to repay delayed rent. It is allowed legally under the county directives and under the Governor of California Newsom's directives as well. and I would like to make sure that we protect all of our businesses and our residents who are tenants.
Okay, is that in the form of future agenda item that you want?
Yes, yes. There are sources
Does anybody,
So if this
does anybody care to second that?
This is Councilmember Elaine Litster. If I understand what what Councilmember Luevanos just read, basically you were reading the recommendations in the letter that was given to us by Robbie Hidalgo. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, you sound very muffled. Can you speak closer to the microphone so maybe I can hear you better?
If I understand correctly, you are basically reading the recommendations that Robbie Hidalgo made, and you would like us to consider implementing them into the DES, the order number 1 that's already in place. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so we can't change the order. So are you asking that we
supplement the order?
That we do a supplement order, or that we have a supplement, that we review those recommendations and discuss them at the next meeting?
Well, the Director of Emergency Service has, Brian Gabler has the authority to do this already. Or, so there's two ways that it can be done. Either we as the City Council can recommend it and it be implemented, or City Manager, Director of Emergency Services, Brian Gabler, can implement it on his own. And this is all in order for us to be proactive in protecting our commercial and residential tenants.
So can we ask the city manager to look at it and come back to us with his findings?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I can make a suggestion, that I have not had the opportunity to read through Mr. Hidalgo's letter. I can certainly take a look at it, see what is already in place in complying with state law and what needs to be supplemented by our DES order number 1, and I can make any supplemental changes and send that out to the council and the public as well. So let me take a look at it and see if we can address what his changes are, because like I said, I haven't had time to study it, and if we're inconsistent, we can certainly make some changes to that.
Okay,
I would
thank
appreciate
you.
that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think that's
actually, this is,
am I correct?
Councilmember Litster, I do have one agenda item.
Okay.
I'm aware that we have a radio station 5:30 a.m., which is for emergency broadcast service. And right now, there's nothing that is referenced specific to what the city is doing for COVID-19 and resources, et cetera. I think that is a resource that ought to be used and capitalized. I think we need to record just some of the different resources for people. I don't know how many people actually use that radio station, but I think it needs to be, I think we are in a state of emergency. I think that station should identify that we are in such, and what different resources the city has at its disposal, and what, for instance, it could mention what the senior center is doing. It could mention that the library is available online with their resources, et cetera. Anyway, I just see that we should be using that resource.
I would think that that's not a bad idea. I don't disagree. I would like to see it, just give that to staff and ask them to take a look at it and make the appropriate changes.
We will do that, Mr. Mayor. We'll put a message on that radio station. Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can you put it in Spanish as well for Spanish speakers?
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much.
Okay. This time we're going to adjourn. Unfortunately, I have quite a list of adjournment in memory of, so please bear with me while I go through them. And before we start, thank you very much for the cooperation and working together. This is the first time that I'm aware of that the Simi City Council has done a pretty much telephonic council meeting. So thank you very much. I appreciate the cooperation. Tonight we're going to adjourn in memory of Gunnery Sergeant Diego Pongo, who was killed in action serving his country and our country. Also, we're adjourning in memory of Vicki Schmidt, who was a Simi Valley High School teacher. In memory of Bob Ain, who owned Bob Ain Ford and was a iconic businessman here in Simi Valley, a gentleman at all times, had quite a history here, and we're adjourning his memory. Also in memory of L.A. Dulé, a former city employee, and a former first responder, Ronald Taylor, who is a very long-term resident of Simi Valley, who served with the Ventura County Fire Protection District for many, many years, is retired from there, and he recently passed away. I think it was on the 31st of March. Also close in the memory of Riverside County Deputy Sheriff Terrell Young and Riverside County Deputy Sheriff David Worksman and Santa Rosa Police Department Detective Mary Lou Armour. So unfortunately, we had a long list tonight, and previously we've had some good nights where we didn't have to adjourn in any special memory of anybody. So please keep them in your thoughts, and the city will send a letter of condolence to those folks. With that, the meeting is adjourned.
Hanging up now. Thank you.